There is a city in Indiana that the rest of America forgot about. It sits on the southern tip of Lake Michigan, just 30 miles from the skyscrapers of Chicago. You can see the city skyline from its streets. But Gary, Indiana, might as well be on another planet. Today, Gary has a population of around 70,000 people. That is less than half of what it was at its peak. Entire neighborhoods have been abandoned. Houses sit empty for decades, their windows hollow, their roofs caved in. Churches with soaring architecture stand unlocked and rotting. It is a city that looks like it survived a war, except the war was economic, and it happened slowly, over 50 years, while the rest of the country looked the other way. And in 2014, inside those abandoned buildings, a killer was hiding his victims. To understand what Gary became, you first have to understand what it was. Gary was founded in 1906 by the United States Steel Corporation, literally built from nothing to house steel workers. At its peak in the 1960s, it was home to over 175,000 people. The steel mills ran 24 hours a day. Workers owned homes, raised families, sent their kids to college. Gary produced the steel that built American highways, bridges, and skyscrapers. It was, for a time, a symbol of what industrial America could achieve. Then the steel industry collapsed. Through the 1970s and 1980s, the mills downsized, automated, and shuttered. Tens of thousands of jobs disappeared. Families left. Businesses closed. The tax base evaporated. City services deteriorated. Poverty deepened. And with poverty came crime. Violent, relentless, generational crime that turned Gary into one of the most dangerous places in the United States. By 2014, Gary's murder rate was nearly 10 times the national average. It was not uncommon for Gary to record more murders per capita than any other city in America. Police were understaffed and overwhelmed. Abandoned buildings, there were thousands of them, became dumping grounds, drug dens, and in the worst cases, crime scenes that no one would ever find. That is the city Darren Deon Vann knew, and he used it. On October 17, 2014, police in Hammond, Indiana received a call from a local motel. A woman had been found strangled in a room. Her name was Afrika Hardy. She was 19 years old. Investigators pulled surveillance footage from the motel. It showed a man entering the room with Afrika Hardy and leaving alone. They identified him quickly. His name was Darren Deon Vann, a 43-year-old registered sex offender with a prior conviction for sexual assault in Texas. Vann was arrested within hours. What happened next stunned investigators. Darren Vann did not deny killing Afrika Hardy. He confessed almost immediately, and then he told detectives there were more. Vann led police on a grim tour of Gary, Indiana, pointing them toward abandoned houses, empty structures, and forgotten spaces in a city full of places where no one looked. Over the following days, investigators found the bodies of 6 more women. All had been strangled. All had been hidden in the ruins of a city that had been left to decay for decades. The victims were Afrika Hardy, 19, Anith Jones, 35, Christine Williams, 36, Sonia Billingsley, 53, Tyra Beatty, 28, an unidentified woman, and Tracy Martin, 41. 7 women, hidden in plain sight in a city where abandoned buildings were so common that no one thought to look inside them. The case exposed something brutal about Gary, not just the violence but the invisibility of the victims. Several of the women had been missing for some time. In a city with more resources, more attention, more infrastructure, investigators might have connected the dots sooner. In Gary, the dots were lost in the noise of a place that the world had already decided did not matter. Darren Vann pleaded guilty to all 7 murders in 2015. He was sentenced to 7 consecutive life terms with no possibility of parole. But the case left questions that no verdict could answer. How long had Vann been operating? Were there other victims? And how many people in cities like Gary, cities America discarded, disappear without anyone looking hard enough to find them? Gary, Indiana is still there. The abandoned buildings are still there. The poverty is still there. Efforts at urban renewal have made small inroads, but the scale of what happened to this city over 50 years is not something that reverses quickly. The 7 women Darren Vann murdered deserved better. They deserved a city that had the resources to notice when people went missing. They deserved to be found sooner. They deserved to be remembered. So this is their story. Not just the story of a killer, but of the city that shaped the conditions that made his crimes possible, and the investigators who finally brought him to justice. If this case stayed with you, please subscribe to Verdict Files. We cover new cases every week, and your support helps us keep telling these stories. Hit the like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share this video with someone who follows true crime. Every share brings more attention to cases that deserve it. We'll see you in the next case.